My name is Uhuru Mufukeng and welcome to the South African Book Review Sessions, your online political book club where everything political literature is dissected, vivisected and eviscerated. When we started this channel, we promised to review a book each and every single day. For the past 2 days or so, it hasn't been the case, but we promise to make it up to you. In the process, please click on the subscribe button on the bottom of your screen. It comes at no extra cost. I repeat, clicking on that subscribe button on the bottom of your screen comes at no extra cost. So please go ahead and click on that subscribe button. And by doing so, you're making sure that you don't miss out on any of the videos and any content coming from our channel. Most especially, don't miss out on any reviews of your favorite book. So go ahead and click on that subscribe button. So what are we doing today? Today, we're doing a new series. It's called the Best 5 Books series. We pick a topic and then we recommend 5 best books on that particular subject. For example, for the purposes of this video, we have chosen the subject South African corruption. Now, we'll be doing the best 5 books we recommend for or on South African corruption. Now, this series is aimed at enlightening you. If you have an interest in the issue and the subject of corruption, because definitely you must. When you open up the newspapers, the television, the news, everywhere, there's corruption, that corruption. So it's important that as South Africans and as Africans in particular, we understand this phenomena of corruption, its development, its origins, and maybe we can have a chance of obliterating it to its fatal end. Yes, to its fatal end. Now, so what are we doing? We're doing best 5 books recommended on South African corruption, and let's start. Number 5 is JVL's Tobacco Wars, Johan van Locharenberg's Tobacco Wars. Now, this book, as you can see, it's self-explanatory. Its cover tells you, its title tells you basically what you can expect. It's basically the industry, the tobacco industry, at war with itself. But in the process, you'll be understanding the hugeness, the vastness of the tobacco industry, its history, its influence, its power, and how much it is credited for state capture by this particular book. Johan van Locharenberg's credits the tobacco industry, the big players within the tobacco industry, to have captured state apparatus, more especially the security apparatus, excluding individuals. It talks of how it has captured the SAPS, the intelligence services, and the National Prosecuting Authority, and a host of others within the security cluster. This is a must-get book. It tells you about a portion of an industry corrupted, which basically reflects back into the South African landscape economically and otherwise. So get this book. It's at number 5, Johan van Locharenberg's Tobacco Wars. At number 4, Evil Weekends and Hans Stradom's Super Afrikaners, inside the Afrikaner Broederbond. Now, this book is basically, from what I've said myself, a proper depiction, history of where cadre deployment comes from and how the National Party never played with power. Basically, this book tells you that the Afrikaner Broederbond, a secret society founded in 1918 and exposed in 1978 when this book was released, it tells you of how they deployed prime ministers, cabinet members, parliamentarians, mayors, councillors, chairpersons of board, everything, judges, every single sector of society. You'd find the touch of the Afrikaner Broederbond through the influence of the National Party. This book will tell you where cadre deployment comes from, and it debunks the myth that cadre deployment is simply a phenomenon of the ANC government, of a black government. This book shows you that that phenomena the ANC had inherited from the Afrikaner racist apartheid government. Ivo Wilkinson, Hans Stradom, the Super Afrikaners inside the Broederbord, number 4. At number 3, Greg Aday's War Party. It talks about it has a 3-pronged approach as far as corruption is concerned. It talks about the corruption at government, state level within the municipalities as governed by the African National Congress within the province of KZN. Secondly, it speaks about the nature, outlook, and character of the taxi industry. It also talks of the influence of the compounds and hostels which were created by mining houses to house its cheap labor, how that basically went on and backfired into South Africa. Now, this book is a very interesting book. It tells you about how the ANC is a party at war with itself, how much corrupt is the organization, and how much that corruption and the infighting, the factional battles within the ANC are affecting service delivery and thus costing the country billions. It talks of how the taxi industry does not operate in silos and how it operates in tandem with the politicians. It tells you how political connections actually assist taxi bosses with ambitions of spreading their influence and networks across the province of KZN and to some extent, and to a larger extent, to other provinces, Gauteng, Western Cape, and Mpumalanga for that matter. It is a book that proves that all big taxi bosses have some sort of political connection, and that provides some sort of insurance and some cover and security. It tells you that those who participate in the political assassinations of those who speak out whenever there's corruption or maladministration, and those whistleblowers who speak up and they get assassinated and so forth, those people who participate as assassins, being called izinkabi, they are being mainly recruited from the hostels. The hostels were made, as according to this book tells us, for being housing, a housing solution for hostels for its large quantities of cheap black labor. As years went on, it turned out to be a breeding ground for criminal elements of all sorts, and that is where you find a huge number of assassins whom are called izinkabi, those whom have participated in large numbers in political assassins and in taxi violence. You find them there. This is an incredible book. It's one of the books I highly rate in my channel. Now, it's Greg Aday's War Party. It's at number 3. Number 2, it's a Rob Rose Stein heist. It is impossible for you to speak about South African corruption and not mention the name of Steinhoff and Marcus Jooste. Now, this book, of all books, this book gets into detail and eviscerates who Marcus Jooste is, from his inception, his growing up, his education, how it influenced the man as we know him today. It tells us from his humble beginnings at Goma Goma, how he started Goma Goma and eventually took over the global furniture industry by storm by leading a big company such as Steinhoff. It tells us the romantic tale of Bruno Steinhoff, how from humble beginnings he started this company and sold his furniture at countries many other prospective capitalists would frown upon. Your capitalist is Germany, apartheid South Africa, for example, and eventually how he got to know Marcus Jooste and how Marcus Jooste got to lead his company, and eventually how Marcus Jooste got to perform his accounting shenanigans. The man was an accounting genius, and it create so many accounting networks just to evade tax or to preserve or to present account audits which would prove that Steinhoff was very accountable while in fact he was struggling. While that would bring in a lot of investors. It tells you of how it used to defraud Steinhoff as its CEO. He'd buy something for they make an example, he once bought a farm for 12 million and he sold it to Steinhoff for 160 million and making a killing out of it. So it's a good book. It also debunks the myth that corruption is solely a private sector thing. It's solely a public sector thing. No. This is a private sector book, and it tells you about serious corruption. How Marcus Jooste costed people. He costed the JSE in 2017 on the day of his resignation 200 billion rand on that day. He costed taxpayers 21 billion rand from their pension money. He continues to cost the country billions of rands because investors are afraid to invest in the country because of something that happened, the Steinhoff saga, which was led by Marcus Jooste. Marcus Jooste by it's Steinhoff by Rob Rose at number 2, a tale of Marcus Jooste. Very interesting book. Lastly, the best book on South African corruption, the best book has to be Henny van Vuren's Apartheid, Guns and Money. He claims when he starts this book that the book is aimed to debunk myths, and he does so. He debunks a number of myths. He presents a side of apartheid South Africa that we did not know of. If you believe that apartheid South Africa was self-sustaining, you were lied to. The man proves otherwise. If you believe that apartheid South Africa was unprofitable, the man proves otherwise. If you generally believe that corruption is solely a black government phenomena in South Africa, this man proves otherwise. He proves gross corruption at a high level within the 1970s and 1990s. This is a book that shows of complicity from international countries, international bankers, bankrolling apartheid, ensuring that apartheid lives to see the light of day. This book actually debunks a number of myths. Some of those myths, I actually was a person who was a hold of those views. I basically believed that apartheid would collapse. It was inevitable. The fall of apartheid would basically collapse, looking at those conditions being told to us. These books prove otherwise. It tells you that apartheid could have went on for a decade or two. It tells you a lot of maladministration, money laundering, racketeering, and how that was infused within state policy. Like, it was state policy. The state was doing it was state policy, and that is the highest level of corruption the country has ever got to. So to remind you again, our top 5, our best 5 books on South African corruptions: Johan van Logerenberg's Tobacco Wars, Evil Weekends, and Hans Strydom's The Super Afrikaners Inside the Afrikaner Broederbond at number 4. At number 3, Greg Aday's War Party. At number 2, Rob Rose Steinhoff. And the best book on South African corruption, according to yours truly, has to be Henny van Vuren, Apartheid, Guns and Money. Guys, these books will assist you and broaden your understanding as far as corruption is concerned. I highly recommend them.